So we went text first, text only, and built an AI around text and did really well, 70% automation within a few months. However, we noticed that when people are frustrated or people need instant help, a 5 to 7 minute response time is not what they want.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Deep Learning with PolyAI. Here with me, I've got Austin Towns, the CTO of Hello Sugar. You are a non-technical CTO, right? So I'd love to maybe just like dive a bit deeper into that and, you know, let the audience know how you ended up doing what you're doing and how you feel about being a non-technical CTO in such a fast-growing company. And I think it would be great to maybe, Hello Sugar provides kind of like hair removal services, and I'll let you introduce the company so that I don't fail to do it justice.
Yeah, of course. Long story short, I grew up around technology. I was imaging computers at a really young age. My dad's been in help desk and then grew in that realm. And so at home, I heard about technology for my entire life. Um, Never really resonated towards development. So didn't like coding, got a little bit of experience, and it's like learning a language. Sometimes you're good at it, sometimes you're not. And
Yeah.
so I went more the business route. I liked that piece. I've been in a lot of teams where I worked hand in hand with developers. Um, had a really good time. I thought that was really good synergy and moved forward knowing that I can work with developers, but I don't need to be the person actually developing the code. So as I graduated, I decided to come into Hello Sugar. Our business, my professor was actually this is the CEO and owner of the company, so Brigham
Oh,
Dallas, which he recruited us. Like we have a few people on the team that were part of his class, and we're some of his first franchise owners. And so I started my first franchise. I was, I think, the 21st franchise overall. And we had, I think, 14 corporate ones. So like one of the first franchisees started in Atlanta and we had nothing. Things that you would think that would be part of a service business, we couldn't, like we weren't having same day reminders. We weren't having all these like little things that make a big difference. My
yeah.
location seeing a 90% no-show rate of like signing up for
Wait,
an appointment.
90%.
90%. We would get 100 people say, I want to do this, book an appointment, and 10 of them would show up.
Okay.
Very
That's
frustrating, especially as a new
here it's
owner.
that scale, that's quite debilitating, right?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, so as a business owner, I'm trying to problem solve. I'm making all these
Yeah.
little adjustments for my location and fix the problem, but we started seeing that problem nationwide. And so I got brought on as a consultant to build that out and then started building other things for the company and came on full time and overall technology and customer support.
That's really cool. I mean, really kind of like you were a classical product guy then, and you kind of like gained ownership over the whole kind of like product and tech piece, I guess.
Yeah, and it's been helpful because I know the brand very intimately from a franchise owner perspective and from a customer expensive like perspective now. So it can help design things for the franchise as a whole.
Yeah, that is super interesting. I think, I'd love to maybe like dive deeper into kind of like, you recruited by your professor as someone who ended up doing what I am doing because my professor recruited me into it to be the first employee of his third startup. I really feel you, and I think it's a really great way to get a first job. I mean, sounds like we've both been on a roll ever since, right?
Yeah.
Um, when you think of the role of a CTO in a company like that, with everything that's happening in AI and the kind of like, you know, people talking about technology going away or being simpler, like how are you using these new tools? How has the work of your teams changed that enabled you to kind of like provide a better kind of like technology infrastructure for the whole company?
Yeah, I think the world is changing that you can have more non-technical CTOs because there's things like Cursor, Replit, where I'm now able to build full-on products or internal tools within a couple of hours. And then there doesn't mean there's not a need for development, but now instead of needing a team of 12, I need a team of three. That they
Yeah.
get the vision, they understand the project, they understand the pitfalls of the project, and can move forward in perfecting the code that's already been created by AI.
Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, yeah, and then like the cost of the whole coordination is also lower. The whole thing doesn't fall over, and yeah, no, no, it's I think a truly wonderful time to be doing this. I think when we look at AI agents and kind of like the deployment of a voice agent, um, you already told me so. I'd love to maybe talk people through your thinking around. I think a lot of businesses, young and old, but for the most part young, start with the premise of being a digital first business where it's all revolving around a digital experience, around text, around websites. How did you end up working with us and doing voice?
Yeah. So we were a very digital experience first. Like we thought everyone within our target market is going to want to text. We live in a day and age where people would rather go to a kiosk or drive a Waymo, which is an Uberless or a driverless Uber,
Yeah.
which I'm guilty of that. I would do that. I will pay double amount to not have to talk to somebody.
Okay.
And so we
Yeah.
went with that philosophy of people just want to text in, they don't want to call. And so we went text first, text only, and built an AI around text and did really well. 70% automation within a few months. However, we noticed that when people are frustrated or people need instant help, a 5 to 7 minute response time is not what they want when
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
lost trying to find their appointment.
How did
And
you
so
get this feedback?
this feedback was because one, we still answer some calls. We had a way that they could get urgent help.
Okay.
But then we
Okay.
just
Okay.
looked at the straight numbers of, sure, we're getting hundreds of thousands of texts um, a month, but we were also getting 30,000 calls a month. And as soon as they would call, we'd say, hey, we don't answer phone calls. Please text us. We just sent you a message. But if you absolutely need help, press one.
Ah.
And the 30,000 calls we were getting were people just pressing one. This wasn't even
Yeah.
counting everyone that was calling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and of those 30,000, we were only answering about 50%. And so the other
Mhm.
15% result in bad reviews, result in missed appointments, just a negative brand experience.
Yeah. Yep. 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 I think like it's really interesting to look at the whole thing because there are a bunch of older businesses. I think the IRS and the HMRC in the UK are like examples of, every few years they announce that the phone number is going away. 48 hours, they're apologizing to the nation about, removing the kind of like that final point of escalation channel, right? And, they've been trying to discourage people. And really, for the most part, when people call, they're calling about something that they should not be calling about because you should have found a way to not make it a problem, right?
Mhm.
So I think the fact that they have to call you is not really their preference as much as it's a failure somewhere else in your business to make things so intuitive. And by the way, it doesn't mean that it's easy, obvious. And I've just always been fascinated by, especially in the US, the channel of choice and the channel of like showing you care about your customers is like picking up that phone call. And there's a bit of cross generational, but I feel like the more years, even like very young people, like Gen Z, it's kind of like starts with, and you see like these memes and everything from like the Gen Z stare onward, etc. But in the end, I feel like the behavior of high functioning individuals converges to like just call the person and get the whole thing resolved really quickly rather than, like waiting for the system to like fall back in place or, following the guidance.
What I thought was interesting when we implemented Poly was I would say 50% of our calls end up being for booking an appointment, and about 50 to 70% of those calls are brand new clients.
Yeah.
And we have designed our website, our text, everything in a way that it takes you, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes to choose your services, book an appointment, and you're done.
Yeah.
Like very intuitive, very easy. But still, like if we were not answering the phone, we would lose 75% of these people probably to a different company, right? Someone that will
Yep.
answer. And we see that a lot in
Yep.
the service business of like people just want what is the easiest for them. If you're not
Yep.
willing to answer the phone, then you lose them.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, there's like, you mentioned Waymos. I think it's a really good example because even if you're driving a Tesla that's like, largely driving itself, like, and I think this may be part of the reason why America is so phone first relative to a lot of European countries. You've got hours potentially of commuting time on your hands, maybe a bit less since COVID hit and things got a bit more hybrid, but still, like, you want to take care of these things predominantly when you're on your own in the car and you're kind of like going through your like tick list of things. So no matter how good your website is, like it's not something you really want to be looking at on the phone while you're driving, right? Or you're at
True.
home, kids are sleeping, God knows, right? There's a plethora of things. You're at work and you don't want your coworkers to know that you're like booking, like laser hair removal.
Yep, yep.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense. When you think of kind of like the whole like business of making it anthropomorphic, by which we mean kind of like, giving it a name and a persona versus like being very explicit about stating that it's an automated experience, kind of like how do you feel about that and like the future of that debate?
I think it helps people feel more comfortable and have more trust in talking to the AI. What we've seen is people even calling in, texting in, instead of immediately saying bot 000, just trying to skip it. If we say, hey, this is Sky, they start believing it's a real person.
Yep.
And I
Yep.
want to be clear, we read an article recently that talks about like treating them as a human versus treating them as a tool. And AI, in my opinion, should be treated as a tool. It is a
Mm.
way, it's a step up, and granted, it's a massive step up from a phone tree or an
Yep.
FAQ article,
Yep.
right?
Yep. Yep.
But you don't want to replace the human aspects of your business because as a people, like I'm looking at like photos right now, and I've becoming so good at seeing like that looks real, but it's AI.
Hmm.
And as people, we're getting really good at knowing like, okay, this was generated by AI, this is not.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you want your business to be trusted, especially in the long term, as everyone is going AI only, which is starting to feel a little bit cheap and half effort, like you need to have a really good synergy of like human involvement as well as enhanced by AI.
No, 100%. Look, I think that for most run rate things, you talked about designing those experiences online to be really easy, good, convenient, self-explanatory. I think similarly, when you then look at the universe of things you can automate, you should probably automate 80, 90% and make it a really good experience. But you should also make it really easy to like out. And then you're well provisioned enough that humans that know the context of your business, right? I think there's a few latent factors like why people, you know, associate calling phone-based customer service or any kind of customer service with bad experience. And, I was always confused with the whole offshoring debate. The truth is, offshoring is removing the agents one step further from being a part of your business, which means that they don't have the context, which means that they're not very good at dealing with the edge cases. And edge cases are really, a lot of what people are calling you about, problems that they might not have seen before or you see infrequently. That's why agents that have been on the job for years are far better than agents that have not, right? And I think like for your business, what's also interesting is, people ask maybe about finding locations, and it's like a multi-site business where, it may not be the same question or consideration in Utah as it is in New Jersey, right? So I think like
Mhm.
even there, you think of the centralized contact center. How do you feel about that? And in terms of providing it as, a fast-growing franchise to your franchisees, like, to people who City used to be in. How do you think about like, leaving it for them to take care of the phone line or communication with the customers versus you being kind of like that single point of communication with their customers?
Yeah, I think it comes down to people are buying a franchise. And as a franchise, you want all the systems, like you want to not, you're not trading a 9 to 5 job for now 60 hours a week. That's not
Yeah.
the ideal, right? You want to get into a proven business that has systems in place so you can scale and then hopefully leave whatever you're doing prior. And what
Yeah.
we've seen is if you have in-person reception, it's going to be minimum wage workers that have a high turnover that last about 3 months. So you're never getting that expertise. And then you're spending $7 to $10,000 a month on reception, which
Yeah.
doesn't provide any extra revenue. It's not revenue generating.
Yeah.
So if we're able to centralize it, we now have the experience because our agents have been with us for 3 to 5 years at least. You're
Hmm.
able to implement some of these technologies that an individual practitioner or an individual owner would not be able to do. Like they can't spend what's needed to put a whole text AI system or phone AI system in
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
for something that they're maybe getting 10 calls a day.
Yeah.
And then you get the same experience whether you're texting in from Topeka, one small little room, or New York, a massive metropolitan.
Yeah, yep. No, that makes a lot of sense, and it's fascinating, like the whole model. I mean, like maybe to throw in like a left field question, but I've always been like awed by the fact that like Chick-fil-A, I think, has a lower accept rate for like their kind of like franchisees than Harvard, right? I think they're at like 3 or 4% versus Harvard's, I think, 6 or 7 or some number like that. That order of like about half of Harvard's accept rate, whatever it is. How do you like choose new franchisees? And like I guess like this technology is part of you being differentiator versus other franchise models that can go for it. They identify a need in their area, but how do you select people to become part of your kind of like wider business?
Yeah, it used to be there was not a hard and fast rule. It was pretty much would we like to hang out with you? Like, would we want to go to dinner with you? It was
Yeah.
very just like feeling and vibe based. As we've grown, it's been would women the ages of 20 to 30 respect you as a manager? And it's because if you're not able to connect with them, be able to lead and manage them, you're not going to have a successful business.
Yep.
A lot of times we have gone away from a very well capitalized who could have been very good owners because they were not good at that unless they had a business partner that could be that person.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Because
Yep.
the
Yep. Yep.
lifeblood of this business is having estheticians that will do the work, that will stay with you and provide that same customer service for your clients. And so
Okay.
we've seen really good owners come out of that.
Well, that's yeah. I mean, I think we went through redefining our values about 9 months ago, and I was someone who used to think that that's all corporate fluff, that it's stuff that BP puts on billboards to tell everyone that they're now a green company, even though they're mostly an oil business still. But I've been a complete convert to the world of like culture and values because I think that whole piece of what are people doing when you're not looking is really the only thing you can do at a very large scale. So you're kind of like tracing a destiny through
Yeah.
enforcing those things. When you
I think
think
you need a
of,
great franchise owner. That's what I'm saying. Like we need
yeah,
European branches.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, today I'm in Belgrade, Serbia, right? I think, I don't know if you want to start there. I think be a business would be very popular here. But we can see if we can sort you out in the UK and in other places that we do business.
All right, I'll count you in.
Yeah. So when you think of kind of like, you in 5 years, you mentioned that you're kind of like, well, on track to kind of like double your locations kind of like over about a 12-month period. And, when you think of 5 years from now, where's the business and where is like the CX strategy?
Yeah, I think it depends on how fast Poly and our text AI and just AI in general grows. The idea would be that we make the AI customer support system so good that our agents are only dealing with these, like you said, these uncommon issues, these like not frequently asked questions. Um, and we continue building them so that instead of being tier one or tier two, that we're like already at tier three, that they can
Yeah.
handle these complex issues. We don't need to transfer them back to like an individual in the location.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. 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 There's a lot of
no,
work
go.
there. I mean, it's, most of our product roadmap really has been about facilitating that non-technical participant because the traditional automation of these things has relied on like a very kind of like strong business unit, the CX people who are like intimately familiar with the business, and IT that's mostly brought into the contact center to check one of two things, right? Do your comms channels work? Like, are your ACD skill groups patching the right phone lines to the right people and distributing them the right way? And the second piece is, does your system of records, CRM, Salesforce, whatever, does it work? Do things load? And if they do, they leave, right? So they're not really like in some other parts of the business. It's not really a combined arms maneuver of constantly changing things, which means that the IT guys are just not the ones that are the citizen developers. And it's really much more of like either them donating some people, the business donating some people into this new citizen developer that's there to kind of look at like, all right, like this year we're going to carve off 70% of the tier 2 issues and they're going to be automated for the most part. And I was with another one of our large clients last week and we were looking at it, and in about 2 hours, we ourselves, with our limited, kind of like courage around changing the rules, were able to plot how we would change to get, a few points of containment up without really sacrificing anything. And I think it's really just a matter of knowing where those things are and creating that combined arms maneuver that's in the way of, like 90% plus containment. So I hope we manage to get there with you guys in under 5 years, but yeah.
Oh, we'd love that. If it was up to us, we'd be there within a few months. But we still have
Yeah.
some technical things that we need to figure out first.
Right. Like it's hard, it's not easy, and it's not the only thing you're doing, right?
Yep.
Perfect. Well, look, I think on our end, that's kind of everything that I had in mind. Yeah.
I did have one
Thank
question for you.
Hmm?
What what's on the roadmap? What are the most exciting things that Poly's looking at for the next few years?
Absolutely. So there's a wider push into omnichannel. I think we've built a reputation as a voice specialist that can do voice really well. We're keen to do all channels, right? Because I don't think you should be maintaining two bots for what is really, a unified experience that has slightly different surface forms over text versus over the phone. And really, it should be a continued journey when you call on the phone. Whatever you did over text should be part of it. So that's already in the back end and kind of like getting rolled out to different clients. That's where I thought it was really interesting. But kind of like you mentioned that most of the text you get is over text messages rather than kind of like over web chat. So I think kind of like text is also quite rich. So I think unifying those in different ways with simple connectors is where we have a bit more work to do, but we're fairly close. And I think past that, really it becomes this kind of like agentic trio of, first supporting the conversation itself, right? Then after that, there is the whole motion of analyzing where it fell short, kind of what we talked about now, that QA process and figuring out just what comes next, like where we need to go after that. And then the level above that is having that happen automatically, right? Where a lot of the times when something falls over, we have right now automated tools that highlight it to us, and we need like 30 minutes of a client's time if we have the right person, right? So I think where it's especially a pleasure to work with companies like yours, where an empowered, product-oriented, non-technical CTO, that's actually perfect, right? If the whole world was populated with Austin Towns, like it would be an easier world to bring AI to life. No, really, and because that information being centralized in someone's like mind is the real transformation, and where you have an advantage over many an old company where it's scattered around and no one's motivated or incentivized to actually do it that way. So kind of like fast growing means that really probably everyone's incentivized and motivated. And then like if it's centralized decision making as well, then you can do a lot of it. But for us, really the future is much more about the contact center becoming the command center, right? So creating a population of individuals inside companies that work on maintaining this channel, right? Because the same way that you have a website and people who care for it, you'll have an agent, right? And really in the span of about 5 years from now, I don't know if we'll even care about a website as much as we will about an agent, right? Now, will it be you or agents of, that you instantiate through ChatGPT or something else doing the work on your behalf remains to be seen. So I think it's always difficult to make these predictions, but we're excited about just helping companies create this interface to the world where whether it's like AI or humans interacting with them, they'll be able to like be the best. Like, our mission is to make companies the best version of themselves in every customer conversation, right? So we're building the tooling platform and processes to allow as many companies to do that as possible.
I love that. We've loved working with you guys, so we appreciate the tools.
Yeah, well, look, we'll talk again. We'll do another one in 12 months and see how far we got and if we owned up to the promises.
Okay. Percent of automation in a year. We'll get
So
there.
yes, sir. Thank you very much for joining me today. Everyone watching, please like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one. Austin, thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.